Hello, hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. I am so happy you are joining me again this season. This is the very first episode of Season 2, where I will be narrating for you a future war love story titled Sara's War, which I hope you will love now and in the future. Here we go. Prologue. Ryan takes my hand in his and kisses the diamond ring on my finger. I stand on my tiptoes and put my arms around his neck and kiss him on the lips. "I'm afraid I have some bad news, Sara," Ryan says. "What is it?" "Our flight has been canceled." "What? Why?" Ryan points to the television screen next to the departure listings. United States President Rogers is speaking in an urgent news report. "America can no longer stay out of this war," he says in his charismatic voice. "Our supposed ally of Liechtenstein has taken 300 American soldiers hostage." Fleeting images with people blindfolded and with their hands tied behind their backs, sitting against a wall in a dirt-floored dungeon, flash across the screen. I clasp a hand over my mouth. Ryan puts a comforting arm around me. "But why are Americans over there? We aren't even part of the war," I protest. "Apparently the president is telling us that we are, and that we have been," Ryan says coolly. "World War III is here." But abruptly 3 gunshots fire in succession in the airport hallway. Sporadic screams burst all around. Instinctively I duck and cover my head. Ryan is now in front of me, with his arms around me in a protective embrace. "Get down!" I crouch and stumble my way to the nearest wall. Ryan follows while continuing to shield me. I hear some screaming in foreign accents. Ryan stares at my face, his jaw clenched. His chest heaves up and down with adrenaline. My limbs tremble and my breath comes in shallow pants. "Keep an eye out to the right of me. I'll look to the left." I peek under Ryan's arm to his blind side. "I see men coming," I whisper. "They're taking purses and wallets." "Fine, we can give them those." Then I see one man with a gun shove another man. I suck in my breath as I feel Ryan's arms tighten around me. "What is it?" he asks. "Everyone," a masked man snarls in an ugly foreign accent, "give us all your money!" Immediately, hundreds of people toss wallets, purses, and even jewelry out into the center of the aisle. My purse and Ryan's wallet bounce as they join the pile. I see several masked men scramble around, collecting everything handed over to them. The next few minutes are filled with stark silence, except for the masked men clamoring and clanking around. Now they are in a huddle, counting their lucre. "This is all you got?" a man yells in rage. He whips out a small gun and shoots a quick round of bullets at no one in particular. Ryan huddles closer to me, shielding me. Yelling and screaming and crying slice the air, followed by a loud crash that sounds like glass shattering. There are distinctive voices yelling now, but I can't make out what any of them are saying. The shooting ceases. Silence. I peek under Ryan's arm again. "The police made it," I breathe. Ryan glances over his shoulder to survey the scene with me. 2 of the 6 masked men are lying on the floor, along with several other civilians. My mind feels completely incapable of registering the tragedy. The remaining 4 masked men stand in handcuffs. The policemen are speaking to them, but what they're saying is unclear. Ryan relaxes his embrace and moves to sit next to me. He leans his head against the wall, his breathing heavy. I gasp at the sight of him. "Ryan, you're hurt!" I cry. Blood runs from his neck into his jacket. He places his palm on my cheek. "I love you, Sara," he whispers. "I love you too," I whisper back. Ryan's eyes roll back in his head, and he collapses to the floor. Chapter 1. Newcomer. I stare out my airplane window as the U.S. Army C-140 flies over the Pacific. I can see large U.S. Navy boats below me, spread out like little circles on a connect-the-dots game, their flags barely noticeable. I glance around at the dozens of Army crew members on the plane, most of them asleep. "Want some company, sweetie?" whispers a voice next to my ear. I jump in surprise. The man chuckles under his breath. Or was it a snarl? No, I snap. Oh, too bad, he sneers. Ugh, this man is so creepy. For the first full hour on the plane, I found him staring at me from across the aisle with a wicked gleam in his eye. I've seen men do this before, of course, but usually they stop looking once I catch them. Not this guy. In fact, he seemed to enjoy getting caught. His nasty smile showed all his teeth. He licked his lips with that sleazy tongue of his. And, as luck would have it, he's now right behind me. Oh, when is this flight ever going to be over? Would you mind going back to your seat? I'd like to be alone, I say, still looking straight ahead. Oh, he says in a condescending tone, I understand. But you see, I'm so lonely, and I just love your company. Well, that's too bad for you, because I don't want yours. Now please leave me alone. Oh, darling, he continues, his voice slow and lilting. How kind of you to say please. But I'm afraid I can't comply. You are just so enjoyable to talk to. I will never want to leave. In fact, I have plans for us later. By the time he finished his seductive speech, he is whispering, his breath on the back of my neck, reeking of raw rum. I spin around to face him. Get away from me, I growl. Say please, honey. I snatch my keychain with my pepper spray and give him a big dose in the eyes. The man calls out in pain. I leap to my feet, march a few rows ahead, and sit next to a fellow female private. My pulse is pounding in my ears. Nice going, she says. I was about to go back you up, but it looks like you took care of him. Put me as a witness in your report. I let out a shaky breath and nod. Thanks. I lean my head back on the headrest. Please don't tell me this is how Big Rock is going to be. I nearly fall asleep in my hard wooden chair as I wait to check in at the Big Rock Army Base. After what seems like an eternity, a prissy brunette comes clicking her dainty high heels down the hallway. She is dressed in a deep purple blazer, with her hair in a tight bun at the crown of her head. Her black pointed glasses match her black pointed shoes. She stops clicking when she reaches the door to the office of Captain Terran.
Private Andrews,
she calls in a nasally voice. Yes?
The captain will see you now,
she says as she opens the door. Thank you, I say, standing up. The secretary sticks her head through the doorway.
Captain Terran, this is Private Andrews. She's just arrived.
A muted voice speaks from inside the room. The secretary motions for me to enter. The captain's office is unexpectedly small, yet it has a spacious feel as there is little furniture to clutter it. A small wooden bench rests underneath a square window, with the sun blaring through from the east. On the adjacent wall, the captain sits at an oversized writing desk and is still busy with his pen. A thin chest of drawers stands tall beside him. I take advantage of his distraction to observe the several framed awards and certificates hanging on the wall above his head. Other than these adornments, the wood-paneled walls are bare. The captain doesn't even look up as I approach him. When he finally does, he leans back in his squeaky chair and looks at me with surprise and curiosity. Captain, I say with a stiff salute. He gives me a slight nod, but other than that, he doesn't even move from his position. It appears he is posing a question for me. The dark purple circles under his eyes seem to reflect the stream of light coming from the window. He's a man about my age, maybe 30 or so, and clearly in great physical condition. His arms are quite bulky. His black hair is only a shade darker than his eyes, and his forehead reveals a small scar. So, Private Andrews, he says, peeking at my file laid in front of him. You are how old? 29. Oh. He leans back in his chair and chuckles to himself. You look so young. I thought I had another teenager on my hands. He laughs. I resist the urge to roll my eyes. They always say that. And you're the new medic they sent us. Yes, sir. My last commanding officer told me I passed the test with flying colors. The captain smiles as he looks back down at his desk. Indeed, he replies. I see you were studying ophthalmology before you were drafted into the Army. That's right. Good for you for not rebelling against the draft. I don't believe the women who did have found much peace in prison, he says. I suspect not, sir. Your own parents were just released from prison, yes? I couldn't help but glare at him for this remark. They're retired and should not have been drafted. Their imprisonment was unwarranted. The captain lifts a hand in apology. I didn't mean to pick a fight. He slaps his palms on the desk. Well, enough talk. Sign this for me, please, he says as he spins a paper around, indicating with his finger where my signature should go. By signing this, you are simply agreeing to abide by all Army rules and regulations. Yes, sir, I say, taking 2 long strides toward him. Before I finish, the captain is standing up, screeching his chair across the walnut floor. You can get the keys to your private quarters from Miss Plush, the office secretary. You are to report for duty at 1300 hours in the meeting hall. Yes, sir. And one more thing, Private Andrews. Make sure you... Excuse me, Captain, cries a voice from the doorway. I twist around to see a tall, dark-haired man, cheeks flushed from exertion. He is clearly out of breath. He steps farther into the room. I stifle a gasp as I catch a glimpse of his striking features. Shamefully, I find my eyes glued to his handsome, chiseled face and his towering, masculine frame. He almost seems unreal. He hesitates a moment as he meets my glance. Acknowledging me with a nod, he continues. I need you to take over for me at the combat training field, he says to the captain. I have urgent business at the waterfront. Of course, sir. I'll see right to it, the captain complies. Don't forget to report to your first duty, Private Andrews. You have a couple of hours. You might find it useful to get acquainted with the base before then. The captain is already walking to the door before I realize he is talking to me again. Colonel, this is our new medic, the captain says in haste, gesturing with one hand toward me. Private Andrews, meet Lieutenant Colonel Haskins, says the captain. Even without his important insignia badge sewn onto his uniform, the way the colonel carries himself clearly shows he is a man of high rank. I give him a tight salute. Colonel? The colonel salutes me back. I am a bit surprised by this, considering Captain Tarrant didn't bother to salute me at all. It's nice to meet you, he says, still a little out of breath. Likewise, sir. Seeing the captain next to the colonel makes his physique look rather small now. Not only is he about 4 inches shorter than the colonel, but his shoulders slump, and his chest appears to be as flat as a floodplain, whereas the colonel has shoulders that are quite broad, and a chest that is obviously solid muscle. Errantly, I wonder what his stomach looks like. You will give me a report afterward, said the colonel to the captain. Of course, he replies. They both charge out the door, leaving me alone in the captain's office. And that concludes Chapter 1 of Sara's War. This is my favorite story currently, and I hope you come back next Thursday for more, where I will give you Chapter 2, which is called Sniggers and Scars. I hope you have a great week. If you want to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.